Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, and today we are talking about my best books of 2023. So, I feel like I have to get a couple of things out of the way. So, number one is this is kind of the best reading year I've had in a really long time. Not just quantity, but also quality. I actually don't think my average rating is as high as it has been before, but I feel like my 5 stars, I just absolutely adore. And a lot of my 4 stars are also books that were so close. They were so close to getting that 5 star, but something was slightly missing. And usually I find it so easy to rate and rank all of my books. That video will be coming soon. This year it was nearly impossible. I'm still unsure about this list. I'm still unsure about this best books. I still keep moving things, and I never usually have to do that. But those 4 stars, they're all high 4 stars to me. But because of the fact they're all high 4 stars, that means some of the high 4 stars end up being middle/low 4 stars because they're all so good. Next thing is, if you've never seen the way I do my best of years, I do a top 10 year list, but I combine my series together. So if books 1 and 2 of a series were on my top 10, I will just place them in the highest spot. So if one was spot number 2 and one was spot number 9, I'll just combine them both into spot number 2. But at the very end of this video, I will just literally 30 seconds run through what is the actual top 10. Just in case anyone's really curious about that. But you will also see that in my ranking every single book that I read in the year, which I still need to perfect that list because, as I said, I still keep changing things. But I think it's come to the point where I just have to stop. Just stop, Rebecca. So in spot number 10 is going to be System Collapse by Martha Wells. So this is the 7th. This obviously is the first book in the Murderbot Diary series, but System Collapse is the 7th, and it is technically a full-length novel, but it's 250 pages, which is barely a full-length novel. At this point, I just think all of the Murderbot books are going to be 5 stars for me. It's just inevitable. Murderbot Diaries, it follows Murderbot, and it has hacked its governor module, which means that it's no longer under company control, and so it can do whatever it wants. But instead of I don't know, escaping or going on some sort of murder spree or anything like that, it simply spends its time watching TV. And eventually the crew that he is with run into some trouble. It has to decide whether it actually wants to do its job and help these humans. And I love the series so much. There is a TV show coming. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Because on the one hand, I love Murderbot, and I do think the action could be really cool, but on the other, it's very much internal. We're in Murderbot's head the entire time, and I'm not sure how that would translate to on screen. And also there has been casting, and I don't know how I feel about it. I know a lot of people, it's very strange because a lot of people will read Murderbot as more female presenting, and others will read more male presenting, but the whole point is it's genderless. It doesn't matter. I personally read it as more male presenting, but I think that's because I listened to the audiobooks first. But to me, Kevin Arfree is Murderbot. That is the voice that I have in my head for Murderbot. I read this as soon as it came out. Well, not as soon as it came out because I was graduating that day, but the day after I sat down, I read it all, and I really liked it. I really appreciate that Martha Wells is trying to kind of switch things up in the stories. So obviously I think the first 4 books are kind of a core series to themselves. They follow the one plot, they're all connected. And obviously they're all connected by the fact they're about Murderbot. But then in the 5th book, we have that full-length novel. And we get more in depth, and we get introduced to a lot of new characters. And then in the 6th one, we follow nearly more of a murder mystery plot line. And then in this one, we kind of have this unique element of storytelling where Murderbot just redacts a load of information that it doesn't want us to know. And so I do really appreciate the fact that Martha Wells is very clearly trying to keep each book with a new kind of twist on it. And I did really enjoy it. I enjoy watching I guess Murderbot become a bit more human with each book. And I do think if you did enjoy the full-length novel, then you will enjoy this because it takes place directly after. And yeah, overall, I really enjoyed it. But it's not my favorite Murderbot Diary book, but it's also not my least favorite. And I do think that Murderbot's always going to be 5-star for me because I love Murderbot. Book number 9 on this list is going to be Blood of Tyrants by Naomi Novik, and this is the 8th book in the Tamara series. And honestly, I just needed one book, to be honest. Like, when I was like, I was like, I hope that there's something to represent Tamara, because I feel like Tamara took up such a big place in my life this year. I read 7 books of it. I read the first 2 last year, and then I read the rest of them all this year. And so, like, there needed to be something to signify Tamara on this list, because Tamara, all of the books are 4 stars except this one, which is the one 5-star I've been given. But like, even though they're like all 4 stars, Tamara is definitely in my like top 10 series of all time. I love this series. Tamara follows Captain Will Lawrence, and he is a naval captain, and this series is set during the Napoleonic Wars, but obviously it is an alternate history that has dragons. And so he is in a scuffle with a French ship, and he wins, and so he loots the ship and discovers that there is a dragon's egg on the ship. And so he takes it, and then the egg starts to hatch. The British Army, they use dragons basically nearly as aircraft. While they don't have a lot of knowledge, they do know that they're supposed to be harnessed straight away to kind of keep them under control, basically. And they draw straws, but Captain Will Lawrence decides that no, he wouldn't put his crew through anything that he himself wouldn't do, so he takes this responsibility, and the egg hatches, and Will calls him Tamara, and the two of them become a dynamic duo against Napoleon, and I love them, okay? I love them. This is book 8, and this, I think, is probably some of, from what I've seen on Goodreads reviews, is a lot of people's least favourite Tamara book, which I understand, because it has the amnesia trope. It maybe doesn't make the most sense, because you're like, why? But for me, like, I just love the angst, and like them being separated, and like this like really like messing up their plans, and I loved all of the drama that came along with it. So for that reason, I absolutely ate this book up, but I definitely understand why it's a lot of people's least favourite, but for me, I love it. Number 8 is going to be Small Miracles by Olivia Atwater. Olivia Atwater was an author that I discovered this year, and this book is very strange because like I did give it 4 stars when I first read it. I read it back in January, and I just kept thinking about it through the whole year. And like, not as in like, oh, it's so deep or anything like that. I just kept thinking, I had such a fun time with that book. And it came to about like, I don't know, May or so. And I was just like, looking at my list, and I was like, no, Small Miracles doesn't deserve to be in the 4 stars. It deserves that 5-star. And I think that's something that I still struggle with, is like, yeah, a book that's like really complicated, which you'll like see later, or really emotional, or really deep and thoughtful and all of that. Yeah, those are often very easy 5 stars to give out. But a book that just had me laughing and smiling like an idiot the whole way through is also a valid reason to give a 5 stars. And so that is why this book has gotten a 5 stars. I am getting the special edition Kickstarter that she did a Kickstarter for, which is like, I've seen pictures and it is so beautiful and I want it now. But I'm very excited to get it because I'll display it. It follows an angel, a fallen angel, because they just don't really believe in the system anymore, because they don't really believe that like, why should you get punished for eating chocolate or all of this stuff. Like, there's so much nuance that the system allows. Then one of their siblings calls in a favor that they are owed, and our main character is basically sent to watch over this person called Tally Harker. Her like life score is so incredibly high. Our main character sibling basically wants our main character to go and make this woman Holly sin, because she clearly needs it. They like explore grief and family and just all of this stuff, and I just had such a good time with it. It was really fun. So then spot number 7, and this book I think a lot of people knew was going to be on here because I talk about it, but the way I talk about it is very strange because I am basically working to convince people not to read it, and that is Witch King by Martha Wells, which, congrats Martha Wells, you made it twice. This is the limited edition, this is just the normal edition that I got. The way I talk about it, you would swear that I'm like trying to convince you not to read it. From the reviews, a lot of people, it doesn't work for them, but for me, she wrote this for me, okay? She wrote this for me. This worked so well for me. I love this book. I love it. And just everything about it worked for me. The characters, the world. It's not a super heavy plot, but it very much focuses on the politics of this world and the found family element, which I loved them. I loved the characters together, how they how the past and the present connected, but like there's so many reasons why people wouldn't. Number one, it's not as dark as I think the synopsis kind of lets on. Obviously, like, it's about a demon, but like it's actually quite a sweet demon. It's very much similar like character vibes as Murderbot, very much a character who is like on the outside but is trying to kind of like better themselves and would do anything for the people that it cares about. And so this, I follows Kai, and Kai is a demon, and Kai wakes up underwater, which kind of messes with our powers, and he manages to free himself, and then he finds his friend who has also been trapped underwater, and the two of them cannot remember how they got here, but they also realize that his friend's wife, she has gone missing, and so the two of them set on a quest to, number one, figure out what happened, but also to find our friend's the friend's wife. And it just it's very much like, it's a lot of traveling. The magic isn't the most explained. I liked what we got of it. I liked the exploration of like the demon culture. I liked how the past and present kind of blended together, and kind of like you saw how like slowly built to how things have become how they are. And I just personally, I really love this. Okay, it really worked for me. But it is definitely like a character driven story. It is about the characters and them trying to find each other again. And if that doesn't sound like something you will like, then maybe skip it. And spot number 6, which, who would have thought this would be spot number 6, is The Chalice of the Gods by Rick Riordan. Look at this edge. So this is the Waterstones edition. This is book 6, technically, in the Percy Jackson and the Olympian series, but it is also kind of the start of another trilogy. So this follows Percy Jackson. Percy Jackson is a demigod, and he wants to go to college. The gods have basically told him that he has to get 3 recommendation letters. And how does he get these recommendation letters? By doing quests. So the first quest is to find the Chalice of the Gods. And I just had such a fun time with this. Again, similar to like Small Miracles, this is a book that just, it made me laugh the whole way through. Like, it was so nostalgic, but it was also very sentimental and sweet, and I just had such a good time with it, and it couldn't have been any less than a 5. Like, it had to be a 5-star. Rick Riordan did a really good job of like, obviously this is technically a middle grade book, and he did a really good job of obviously writing this for its age range, you know, the humor and the like adventure and all of this. But he also knew that there was probably going to be a lot of people who read Percy Jackson in like 2005 who would pick this up and read it, because of course they would. And I may not have read them in 2005. I think I read the first one in like 2012. But I think he knew that there would be a lot of people revisiting it from their childhood, and that I think he also did a really good job of like fitting in some messaging about like growing up and like how like it's okay to grow up. It was like a really nice story about like embracing growing up, and I think he did a really good job of like balancing those two. But I did chuckle all the way through because I'm obviously still a child. A very distinct tonal shift. Book number 5 is going to be A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness, which really surprising to me that I have 2 like middle grade YA kind of books. We follow a boy called Connor, and his mother is sick, and he keeps having nightmares, and then one night he is basically woken by a monster, and this monster tells him that he will tell him 3 stories, and by the end Connor will tell him what his nightmare is. And so it just follows these 3 nights as he tells these stories, and as we deal with Connor and all of the stuff that is going on in his life. I read this. I actually listened to the audiobook. The audiobook was incredible, and it is definitely a book that got an emotional reaction from me. That does not happen very often, and this was one of the 2. Yeah, I think this is one of 2 books that have gotten a very emotional reaction from me. I think I might have teared up. I'm not sure. I didn't actually cry, but I definitely teared up reading this. And then I watched the movie, which also destroyed me. It is very accurate to the book. I feel like I don't really need to say that much about this because this is such a well-loved book. And like, yeah, you kind of know what is going to happen, but I think it just really, it explores like the messy side of grief and kind of the like ugly feelings and how horrible they make you feel because like you've thought this thing and then how bad that makes you feel for even thinking that. And I just think it was incredible. Then book number 4 is going to be Silver Under Nightfall by Rin Shipeko. It is Rin Shipeko's adult debut. So this book, it follows Remy, and Remy is a vampire hunter. There is this new breed of vampires that is being found throughout the city, and he is well prepared to start investigating this by himself, but he actually ends up getting, and then he comes across 2 vampires, and this couple, they end up investigating this with him. As the 3 of them face all of these challenges, Remy starts to develop some very complicated feelings towards the 2 of them. I ate this book up. I haven't read almost all of Rin Shipeko's books. I will be doing a ranking soon because I just don't think I'm going to finish the Wicked As You Wish series, because that's like the only book that I haven't read from them. Is the 3rd and final book, which I think came out like the start of December. So I think I'm probably going to do a ranking Rin Shipeko pretty soon. But this one, oh, it was so good. I think kind of everything in here, I think it was a really strong adult debut, because I think it takes a lot of what they have already done that we've seen them do in their YA, like talking about like, you know, complicated family dynamics, friendships, relationships, like politics, all of this, but taking all of that and just adding just like a little more to it, making it a little more in-depth, making it a little more complex. And I think that's what made it a really good adult debut, is because we've already seen that Rin Shipeko can write books, obviously, and they just kind of take all that they've learned and make a really solid adult debut. The characters are the shining stars of here, but I did also just really enjoy the vampire creatures that are in here. I did really enjoy like the complicated family dynamics. I really did enjoy like the plot and the kind of like the mystery element in here. But as I said, the shining star is the 3 main characters and their relationship with each other. Like, I was obsessed, and I'm so excited for the next book to come out, which I believe is in April. Spot number 3 is going to be The Liars Notot and The Labyrinth's Heart by M.A. Clark. So technically, Liars Notot is my favorite in the series, but we're going to talk about the 2 of them because they were both 5 stars. This series starts with The Mask of Mirrors, and it follows Ren. And Ren grew up in this city, and she left when she was young with her sister to try and make a life for themselves. But now they are returning, and this time they have a con in mind to pretend to be related to these noble families to get their way in and end up getting some money out of it to set them up for life. But what Ren doesn't realize is that the family might have a lot more going on and might not be the best mark to have chosen. And I liked but didn't love the first book. I actually did also read the first book this year, but it was actually like a pretty low 4 stars, I would say. Like, I really liked the world. I thought it was so fascinating, and it was just so in-depth, and that is actually a problem that a lot of people have with the series, is that it's too in-depth. Like, we get a lot of information that we never need, but I personally loved it. I just love seeing how their minds work. Obviously this is an author duo. I love seeing how their minds work and how they have just like thought of absolutely everything about how this society functions. I think that is so fascinating to just know. And I think the 2 of them got very excited about the fact that they had thought of this such an incredible world, because like they also just like loved to talk about the world. And I did enjoy that in the first book. But I thought it was very slow to get started, which is true. And it's true for the whole series, to be honest. I think the 3rd one is the fastest, but even then I would not say it's fast paced. And I just didn't love the characters, and so I was kind of like, will I continue, will I not? But I already owned the 2nd book, so I was like, I'm obviously going to continue, but like I was kind of like, I actually could have given or taken it. And I'm so glad I did continue the series, that I already had owned the 2nd book, because I read this and I ate it up, because I don't know what it was that changed, but I don't know, I got like maybe like 100 or 200 pages into this, and all of a sudden it just clicked. Like, the characters, all of a sudden I just loved them, and like that's what pushed it into the 5 star. I already liked the world. I already thought that the like plot and all of this like very intricate politics was already like really interesting, but the characters was what ended up making me not love the first book, was because I just thought they were okay. And as I said, I don't know, there wasn't even like any I don't really even think that there was any particular scene in this that was like, this is where it happened. But just like, I don't know, I got a couple of 100 pages in and all of a sudden I was just like, I love these characters. I love them. I loved this book. And like, I loved this book. I loved it. And I think a lot of it revolves around the plot to do with like the masked vigilante. And I will say that doesn't appear as much in this book, which maybe is why this was like a lower 5-star than this one. But I loved the exploration of that, kind of like the trying to figure it out. I loved, we really get some like emotional moments between some characters in here. I just, as I said, like, I do think objectively this is actually probably slower paced than the first book, but I ate this up in about 2 days. I could not stop reading it because I was obsessed with these characters and I just wanted, like, all of them are so complicated, and like I would just like finish like one scene, and I would finish a scene of like these two characters together and I'd be like, let's keep going, must get back to them. But like it was that with every single, because like I'd change the chapter and it would be a different character interacting with a different character, but I'd also be obsessed with them. And so I had such a good time. I'm so glad I read this series this year, because I've discovered a favorite series again. I haven't really talked about this one. This one is obviously, it's the climax. I do think that overall it was a very satisfying end. There was a couple of things that I wanted to happen that didn't happen, but I'm not mad about it. I do think that it all came together very well, and I do think there was one plotline that like kind of annoyed me, but that was resolved by about maybe a third of the way through. And I think that, as I said, I do think this is like the best paced out of all of them, because it isn't fast paced, but it definitely, there's so much to like kind of wrap up that we kind of get through it all. So yes. So that means we have 2 spots left to talk about. And if we're being honest, is I really struggle. I'm not sure about what I'm about to say because I think there is one that is objectively the best book that I read this year. Since I think about March, or maybe April, I've had one book as my number 1. But then in about May, I read another book. And I think objectively that is a better book. But I'm going to put that as book number 2. And I'm going to go purely like emotional character connection as number 1. Which, not saying that I don't have emotional character connection to the book I'm about to talk about, because I definitely do. But I do objectively think this is probably the best book that I have read. But it is getting the number 2 spot. And that is The Sword of Dragon by Emma Wang. This is definitely one of my favorite books of all time now. This is, again, one of the only books that has made me emotional this year. I actually shed tears. That never happens to me, and I couldn't believe it. And I was reading this, and I was messaging Maria because I was literally only like a couple of pages in, and I was like, oh, I already know what's going to happen here. And I messaged Maria, and I told her, I was like, this is gonna happen, isn't it? And she's like, I'm not telling you about this book. And I was like, well, now that I know that it's gonna happen, like, I'm not gonna connect or care. And oh boy, was I wrong. I connected, I cared, and when it happened, despite the fact I knew from like page 1 it was gonna happen, I cried because of course I did. And here's the thing, is why I think this is like objectively maybe the better book. It is a character driven story. But I think even if you're not character driven, you can appreciate the points that this book talks about. You can appreciate what it does, of the like interesting conversations that it has and all of that. But if you are a character driven reader and you connect to this family, it's going to be 100 million times more impactful. But I think even, as I said, if you don't connect to this family, if you're not a character driven reader, I do still think that like you'll appreciate what the story is doing, but it probably won't be a favorite for you. But if you do connect to the characters, it's gonna be a favorite. I will say it took me a little bit to get into it. Like the writing style at first didn't really work for me. Not that it didn't work for me, it's just like there was some formatting things that I didn't love about it. And so at first I was like, it kind of annoyed me, but like after I'd say maybe not even like 100 pages, I was just like, okay, I'm over it. Like that's fine. And then, as I said, I loved this family. I loved them. That's all. Okay, I love them, and this is definitely a favorite book of all time. This is a special edition that I got because they had done like the pre-order for this like ages ago, and I had never read it, and then I read it and I was like, oh, and I'm pretty sure that's all over. But then I looked it up and I was like, no, it's not over. You can still buy this. So I immediately bought it. So we'll just give you a quick look. Look at those gilded edges. What it's like underneath. And then we have some gorgeous end papers. And we got some maps. And it is signed and numbered. Mine is number 22. I feel like there's so much I could say about it, but I'm like very conscious of spoilers. On to our best book. As I said, objectively, is this the best book? No, it's not even my favorite book in this series. But like, I just have to put it as number 1 because just like finishing this series, the emotions I felt. I feel like it has to go number 1 just for that reason of like that immediate like I need to reread it all. I need to just stay with these characters forever. I love them so much. Like that feeling, like that is the reason why I'm giving this top spot, because just that feeling was it was wonderful. And so book number 1 of the year is The Discord of Gods by Jen Lyons. And also with that is House of Olive, which was another 5-star that I had. But I will say this is maybe my least favorite in the series. I'm not sure. This one, I will say is quite repetitive. At this point of the series, I love the characters so much that I didn't really care. But as I said, it did even for me, like absolutely love the characters. The format of this is very repetitive because it's like they are, I guess, nearly seeing visions that this creature is like putting upon them. And so it's that kind of repeated over and over, and there's very similar sentences, and like it's supposed to be that way. It's not as though she like accidentally forgot that she wrote the sentence like 5 times already. It's meant to be that way, but like it did kind of get on my nerves when I was like binging it in one day. So maybe like, okay, because I did like binge it over like 2 days, so like maybe I wouldn't binge it because then maybe you might notice the repetitiveness. But as I said, I love the characters so much that like the character moments in here, I hate them all. This book, I don't think this is my favorite in the series. It's not. I think either book 1 or 3 is probably my favorite. But like, I think 1, 3, and 5 are all like really high up there. Whereas like 2 and 4, I didn't love as much. But 1, 3, and 5 are all like 5 stars. I just love how everything came together. This is one of my all-time favorite series. I think, I'm trying to remember because I did my top 10 favorite series. I know I did that this year, but I can't remember where I had this. I think I might have had it in spot number 3 because I think it was Shades of Magic, Realm of El Rings, than this. And so this story follows Kieran. And in present time, he is currently in a prison and he is being told to tell his life story. And so he starts telling the story of how he was sold into slavery and then basically trained by all of these magical people. And then the person who was talking with him stops him and says, that's not where your story starts. And she starts telling the story that starts a couple of years before that, where he is the son, adopted son of this bard who has a bit of a thieving problem. And he gets caught in the wrong house, and then he ends up getting claimed by the royal house, by one of the royal houses. And through this, he discovers that for some reason, everyone seems to want a part of him because he might be part of this prophecy which says that he is destined to destroy the world. And I just love them. I love them, okay? It's very rare for me to give book 1 in a series a 5-star. I usually take, I mean, even if you look at this, like obviously Liars Notot, Chalice of the Gods, like Blood of Tyrants, System Collapse, all of those, they're not the first books in the series. But this series I have loved since day 1. It just, again, very similar to Mask of Mirrors. It is so incredibly detailed. Jen Lyons has just like, you kind of nearly feel that excitement that she had writing this, because I think she had such like fun and incredible ideas that she was just like so excited that she had to write everything down. And I just love that. I love the world building in here. I love this book because this entire series, because this is probably the only series ever that has made me, I had my notes app open on my phone and I was taking notes, and I loved that. I love the world building. I love the body snatching elements. So if you had no idea who the hell was who, and just, it was so complicated. I loved the plot. I loved how the prophecies came together and just like what we learned about them along the way. And just kind of like, there was some really fun and unique twists in this. and just like the series overall, I just absolutely adore it. And I love the characters, as we've discussed in this, in basically every book that I've talked about. If I love characters, I'm probably gonna love a book, and I love this. And I think Kieran is a type of main character which a lot of people don't love, and I'm going to call this main character lovable dumbass who tries his best. I would also include in that category Fitz from The Realm of the Elderlings. Like, maybe not making the best decisions, but they're trying. And as I said, personally, that type of character really works for me, but definitely not everyone's favorite. So, just how this all came together, I loved it, okay? I loved it so much. And so, you know what? I'm perfectly happy putting this as number one, because I read this book and I just wanted more. I was just like, I don't care, write me a short story of them eating breakfast. I don't care. Give me more. I think I'm convincing myself to reread this. I'm not gonna lie. And I think I might actually do the audiobooks from book 1, because I audiobooked 4 and 5, I think. And maybe I think I audiobooked like half of Memory of Souls, but the first 2 I read physically. And so I think I might like audiobook them all, just like when I'm like playing The Sims or something. Like just like slowly make my way through them. I'm going to quickly run through what's the actual top 10, not combining series. In 10th spot is Small Miracles by Olivia Atwater. In spot number 9 is Labyrinth's Heart by M.A. Carrick. In 8th spot is going to be The House of Always by Jen Lyons. In 7th is The Witch King by Martha Wells. In 6th position is The Chalice of the Gods by Rick Riordan. In 5th position is A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness. In 4th position is Silver and Nightfall by Ren Pecco. In 3rd position is The Liars Notot by M.A. Carrick. In 2nd position is The Sword of Kaigan by Emma Wang. And in 1st position is The Discord of Gods by Jen Lyons. So this is a bad idea. Because why are they're all so chunky? So these are the top 9, but also Small Miracles. So these are the top 10 best books that I read in 2023. So, as I said, I love all of these so much. So, I had a great year. So, thank you guys so much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, subscribe. And I'll see you all in the next one. Bye!